They're so pretty, and it was fun to do.
Hello everybody, welcome to Catherine Sews. Thank you so much for joining me today. I recently went thrifting in Squamish, BC and found a couple of good scores. The first one being this silk blouse, and it needs nothing. It's just perfect, it feels amazing. The only thing I had to do was wash it, hang it to dry, and give it a nice iron, and it just came out so perfect. I love this shirt, whether tied like this with a pair of jeans or tucked into a pair of black dress pants, it's going to be great. I also thrifted these jeans, and they are excellent vintage Levi's. The fit is fantastic, they feel great, but those holes, right? I know a lot of you are going to say, why would you buy jeans with holes in them? You know what, when you fall in love with vintage Levi's, if you know, you know. They just feel amazing. So I'm looking at those holes, not as holes, but as opportunities to do some beautiful patchwork. What I'm going to do today is Sashiko stitching. If you've ever seen Sashiko stitching, it's just beautiful. It's a Japanese technique of mending where they use just a simple running stitch in any number of different traditional patterns. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to be great with a needle. In fact, you don't even need a sewing machine. I'm not going to use my sewing machine at all today. Just a needle and thread. Now, I bought a few things on Amazon to just help myself along on this project, and one of them is the traditional Sashiko thread. It's 100% cotton, made in Japan, but there is just absolutely no reason why you couldn't just quadruple up just regular white sewing thread. You want to have a needle that has a large eye on it, so you can get either the thicker Sashiko thread or your quadruple thread through the eye of the needle. There are special Sashiko needles that you can buy too. I didn't buy one. I just thought I'll use a needle that just has a bigger eye. But then I also did buy two tools to help me make my pattern of stitching really nice and regular. I have a link in the description to the thread and to these two tools that I'll show you. So the first one is just an inch wide ruler. This is going to be really handy for a lot of different things, but this is the OmniGrid 1-inch ruler. And then my friend Judy, who you've met on this channel before, she showed me how she does Sashiko stitching using a circle template like this. So I ordered one. I had to make sure that there was at least one circle that was 25 millimeters. 1 inch is 25 millimeters, and so I wanted a circle that was 25 millimeters. I'll be using the 10, 20, 30, and 40 millimeter circles to make another pattern that's also lovely. So this is going to be really fun, something different on my channel, no sewing machine at all. You'll need some scrap of denim, pair of sharp scissors, and then the only other thing I can think of that you'll need is something kind of stiff to put in between the layers of the leg of your jeans. So I'm going to use a little notepad. You could use a magazine or a small cutting board, whatever you have that will just slip in there and make it so that you can stitch just through one layer of your jeans. I think the jeans are going to be really beautiful by the end and special and unique to me. So I'm excited to start. Let's get busy.
So I've got my scraps of denim, and I think the first thing I'll do is just kind of clean up the area. I'll cut off all of these little threads. Now there's definitely no turning back because now the hole looks even worse. I could just put one patch on each leg, but I want to do 4 different Sashiko patterns, so I'm going to put a couple patches on each leg. I thought if I have a light and a dark on each leg, something like that might be okay. So I'm going to just cut randomish pieces. I don't want to be skimpy because all of this fabric is super thin too. So I do have to go a little bit bigger than the area that I'm patching. So 2 of them are just going to be lines, like horizontal and vertical. One of them is going to be graduated circles, and then one is going to be like overlapping circles. I'll do the circles on the darker ones because they're going to be the prettiest, and then I'll do lines on the lighter ones. So okay. So I also have a scrap of soap that would work well on the darker denim. For the lighter denim, I'm going to use one of my friction markers. These are so good. And with this little inch wide ruler, I'll just draw a line and then slide it over so that the second line, the dotted line, is on top of the line I just drew. And then just keep doing that. And that's such a good, easy way of getting a whole bunch of parallel lines, which is a good, easy way of making sure that my stitching is nice and neat and parallel and organized. To be able to draw in those circles, I have to split my soap so that I get a point. This is metric, so it's all millimeters. And the ones that I'm going to use are the 10, 20, the 30, and the 40. Start by drawing a 40. Maybe I'll draw a bunch of 40s. Then a 30 goes inside each one. And then a 20 goes inside each of those. Last but not least, the 10s go right in the middle. So that's sweet. That'll be nice. Okay. This one, I'm going to do the overlapping circles. So for that, I'm going to start with a grid, an inch by inch grid. And then 1 inch is equal to 25 millimeters. So inside each square, I'm going to draw a 25 millimeter circle. So then once the grid is all filled in with circles, then I go through again where those lines cross, I'll put a circle. So this one is definitely the most complex, but it looks really, really pretty when you stitch it. Well, that looks really cool. I'm happy with that. And then on the last one, I want horizontal lines. So the friction pen irons off or washes off, and the soap washes off super easily as well. Alrighty, so the circles look so pretty that I put those on top. I think that's going to be nice. When you get a new skein of Sashiko thread like this, you're going to take off that paper band, unfold it. Good. I might have already messed this up a little bit. And then, yes, I think I did kind of mess it up. So you kind of make it into a circle like that, and then you're just going to cut the whole thing. And these are now kind of the perfect lengths of threads to use. And then my needle is just a normal needle. I didn't get a real Sashiko needle, but I did make sure to get a needle that the eye is big enough on, because the Sashiko thread is quite thick. Good. Okay. So even though I'm excited to sew the circles, I think I better sew the lines first because they're underneath. And I like to tie a knot. Okay. So a little notebook now, I'm going to slide up into that space so that I can pin through, but I know I'm only pinning the 2 layers. I'm not pinning it right through to the back of the jeans. And now I could just take any kind of thread and run a basting stitch around here just to sort of anchor it in place. That would be smart. However, am I too excited to be smart? Yes, I'm definitely too excited to be smart. So I'm just going to go inside just to hide my knot. Okay, so my knot's hidden on the inside. And now you just put your needle in and out and in and out. And you try to make the space in between the stitches the same or even a tiny bit smaller than the stitch. And you can, on thinner fabric, you can load up your needle with like 4 or 5 stitches, and that's actually a nice way to see that it's like regular, like even. In, out, in, out. Oof. And my first stitch seems to be getting smaller than my second stitch. Okay, I'm going to be forgiving with myself. I think it's going to be pretty anyway. Okay, maybe I will just do one at a time because this denim is too thick and this needle is thick too. I'm just going to do 1 stitch at a time just to try to be a bit more regular. Okay, when I get to the end of that row, or like a stitch distance away, I'm going to go up into the next line. I think what looks nice is if the next row has a stitch in between each of these ones. Do you know what I mean? So I'm trying to make my stitch where the space is on that line. And if you are a thimble user, this is a great time to use a thimble. I don't even know if I have a thimble. When I'm done all of this stitching on all 4 patches, I'll wash the jeans, so that will erase my soap and my friction pen, and it also will ruffle up the edges of these patches too. That'll look nice. So here I'm gonna go up now into the next row and make my way back across. So I'll just keep doing that. Whew. So there's 4 lines done. My thread is getting short. I tie a knot I'm just going to make one last little stitch. I'm going to just try to secure my knot like that, like putting it back through the loop of my thread, especially since this one's at the end. And then before I cut my thread though, I'm going to put it in and then come back out anywhere and pull that tight so that the tail of the thread is inside, right? And then I'll just get a new thread and continue. As you're working, there's my strand of Sashiko thread, and it's just through the needle. The tail of the thread is coming down maybe 6-7 inches. As your thread gets shorter, slide it down so that that tail of thread does not get caught in. But it's coming along, and it feels really cool. It's got a nice feel to it. It feels super durable now. So this one is done, but the stitches are big, right? For me to be able to eventually sew all these tiny circles, I'm going to have to get my stitches way smaller. So I've been working on this one, just concentrating on trying to get my stitches smaller. And here's what I found. When it's through the double layer, it's too thick. It's really hard to get small stitches. When it's just through the single layer, that's when I can have a little bit more success making smaller stitches. With these ones, instead of sewing it right through, I'm going to actually sew the design and then stitch it onto the jeans. That's going to make that a lot easier. It's kind of a pleasure to do. I've been doing most of it at the kitchen table, chatting with my family. Probably have spent, I'm going to guess, about an hour on each patch at this point. So it's definitely a labor of love. There are faster ways to patch your jeans, but I think this will be nice. It'll be special. Back to the kitchen table, and I'll show you when this one is done, and then we'll get into the circles. Alright, so the vertical and the horizontal are done. I'm getting better as I go with smaller stitches, and now I think I'm just going to trim down these pieces to be a more pleasing shape, kind of just like that, but I still need full coverage of the hole, so that'll be alright like that. I'm going to be just sewing through this single layer, and then I'll sew that onto the jean. So it is just exactly the same process, just a running stitch, but with these two circular ones, I kind of just want to plan my route a little bit better. I don't really want to start here and then end up here. Do you see what I mean? I want to have the least traveling to do. So I think I might start over here. I'll end up here and can travel there. It's a small difference, but it kind of makes sense. I'm going to be just doing my little running stitch all the way around all the circles. So on the inner circle, it worked out to 4 stitches, and I'll try to do that then for all of the inner circles, 4 stitches. Then I'm going to bring my needle out to the next circle out. It's so much easier on a single layer. These stitches right now, they're just decorative, really, aren't they? Because it's not binding it to the jeans. And you could definitely work on a larger piece of fabric and put it into an embroidery hoop if you wanted. That would probably make things a little bit easier. I was hesitant to try stacking stitches on my needle when I'm going around a curve, but on the 2 outer circles, the curves are gentle enough that that seems to be working okay. But definitely not on the inner circle. You have to be careful on the last stitch to try to make the pattern look smooth. Okay, with that set of circles done, I'll travel over to this one. Alright, so that's the idea for this one. And I'll time it and see how long, just so you have an idea. So I'd say about 5 minutes per circle. So not too bad. I think it's looking really cute. And on the back, I wanted to show you how you can see that I just traveled like from one circle to the next. And now I'm finishing at the inside of that circle. So I want to travel over to this one. And so I'll just weave my thread underneath those stitches, just so I don't have a big float yarn on the back. That keeps it from getting caught on things. And then come out here. And then keep going around the next circle. I'm going to take this back to the kitchen table. I'll see you back here in a second. So this one, even though it's more complex looking, it's still just circles. I'm not sewing on the grid at all, only on the circles. On this pattern, traditionally, you leave the intersections open. Like you don't make a stitch that crosses over the intersection. A little open space at each of those intersections. It just looks prettier and neater when you've got that little open space. So I want to make sure I'm going down just before the intersection. So it's like you have to sort of plan your stitches as you go along there. So yeah, this one is a little bit more complicated, but it's going to be sweet. And I think it would be easier to do this one with bigger circles. So you could try this if you're not too sure about hand stitching. You could try this instead of an inch wide grid, try with an 1.5 inch grid, and then a circle that just fits in each of those squares. And then your stitches don't have to be so small. This one is going to take some time. I better put on a good movie. So there's one completed square, really. It's a labor of love. What I'm trying to do is envision a little like lentil size blank spot at that intersection. So I'll make a tiny stitch, a tiny space, and then go down kind of to the outside of that lentil shaped space. So it's coming along. It's kind of cute. I think I'm getting better at it as I go. It's pretty forgiving. I'm definitely not doing a perfect job, but it's pretty okay. But if you do make a mistake that you just can't live with, like this, I just don't like the shape I've made here. So then just take your thread off your needle and then use the back of your needle to pull out the stitches that you don't like. And then just rethread and keep going. Okay, I'll keep going till this one's done. Okay, they're both done. I just love them both. I'm just going to do a running stitch around all 4 sides and then throw them back in the wash to show you. Oh, I really love it. I like it even more than I thought I would. So I want to hide my knot underneath there. And then just a little running stitch all the way around. And now it's like, that's 3 layers of denim I'm going through there. So it's like, yeah, this is a excellent time for a thimble. Running stitch like that around both. And then I'll throw them in the wash again, just to ruffle up the edges of the patches and to erase any remaining lines. Okay, I'll finish that off and see you in a second. They just came out of the dryer. They're so cute. I love it so much. But before I put the jeans back on, I have a special favor to ask you. So stick around for 1 more minute, please. So there we go. I absolutely love these jeans. They are by far my favorite jeans now. I love the fact that I not only saved them from being thrown into a landfill, but I turned them into something that's beautiful and very special to me. Now before you go, I'd like to ask you a special favor. My stepsister Elaine has started her own YouTube channel. If I can throw a little support her way, I would love to, because she's the one who actually got me into thrifting when I was a teenager. So that's years ago when we were growing up in a blended family. She was like a big sister to me, and I remember when she got her first big job and she didn't have the money to dress the part, so she went to Goodwill or Salvation Army and she came back home with a big bag of clothes that she had spent about $28 on or something like that. She looked gorgeous in everything. She styled it all up beautifully. She just looked fantastic. And I remember as a teenager watching that and thinking, aha, that is the way to go. That's for me. And that set me on my path of sustainable fashion. Now she's starting a lifestyle channel where she'll show you how she thrifts, how she styles her pieces together. She does fitness. She's in fantastic shape. She looks unbelievable. And she's 66 years old. She just looks dynamite. And she's got great style and has a great lifestyle. So let's send some love Elaine's way. It would mean a lot to me if you check out her channel. I'll link it here and in the description below. So thanks for doing that, and thanks for watching right till the end. Always happy to have you along for the ride. And until next time on Catherine Sews, you take care.